Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast.
Hey, I got a bone to pick.
Guys, I am so fired up.
Sleep deprived and all, I'm happy to be here.
You probably cut up your hot dog. You don't need it on a bun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Terrence Oglesby, and I have John Fanta. It is not the Monday Overreactions pod. We are recording on a Wednesday. It is 11:21 in the AM, January 10th, Eastern Standard Time, the only legitimate time zone. Travel issues. The good thing about where all of us are right now is that as we continue to move up in our careers, we get busier, but that makes it more difficult to lock in a time where we can all find an hour at this same moment to be able to jump on a Zoom, hit record, and talk about college hoops. So we're able to do that here on a Wednesday morning, which is actually perfect because yesterday was an insane day in college basketball. Number one and number two both go down for the first time since February 26th, 2022. Pop quiz. Either you guys know who number one and number two were on that day that lost? Fanta, do you know? All right, hold on. T.O., do you know? Don't say,
Arizona and Gonzaga.
He didn't know.
That's how T.O. passed all his classes at Clemson as well. Look, we got to talk about the college hoops for a second. But before we do, T.O., we got to call a 20-second timeout. Okay, we're gonna go draw up a play in the huddle.
He's so proud of that shirt.
Yeah, we got to call up a play in the huddle, and we got to go to Fanta. We're going ISO here. We're going one far low. We're putting the ball in Fanta's hands. It's called the do him offense. Fanta, do him. Talk your shit.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's Flacco fever, baby. I've got my Joe Flacco 15 shirt on. I never thought in a million years that at the age of 38, that Joe Flacco, I'd be wearing a shirt in his honor. He tortured me for 15 years of my life. Absolutely torched me. And now he is my hero. He's my hero. Joe, take us to the promised land. Take us all the way because I'm ready to go with you on this journey. I want to make it to Las Vegas. I want a Super Bowl championship. I want a Lombardi. The road starts in Houston this weekend. Go Browns!
Fanta, I want to know if the Browns win, what are you going to do? How are you going to celebrate that?
Well, I'm going to host Field of 68 after.
No. I'm not talking about on Saturday. I'm talking about the big game. I'm talking about February 11th. I'm talking about Super Bowl Sunday. If that happens, what are we doing? Where are we going?
Okay.
Can I come too? Are me and T.O. invited?
Yeah, I'm a company man first and foremost. So this Saturday, everyone out there, here's a promo. We will recap the day of college basketball, and you'll all get a Browns reaction from me on the Field of 68 after dark at 11 Eastern Time with Rob Dauster and John Henson. We can't wait. But for Super Bowl Sunday, okay. The Saturday before the Super Bowl, I'm working. Okay. I am working in Illinois. So I'm in Chicago area. All right. I'm in the Chicago area. So I have looked at either coming back to New Jersey and hosting, a Super Bowl gathering. You're all invited. You two would be invited. Or do I say, bite the bullet, the Browns made the Super Bowl, I'm hopping on an 8 a.m. flight out of Chicago to Las Vegas direct that lands at 10 a.m., and I'm going to the 3:30 Super Bowl game, and then I'll take a red eye.
If they make it to the Super Bowl,
You have to go.
You have to go.
You have to go.
Of course, you'll have to outpay the rest of Cleveland. Because I can't imagine the ticket prices if the Browns made it to the Super Bowl.
But listen to this, though. I agree with you. And the ticket, to get into the stadium, I'm going to guess this is a guess. Guess you got to drop $2,000.
More.
To get in. Oh, you think like $5,000? How about $5,000?
More.
$5,000? You think more than $5,000?
No, I think you probably be able to get in the stadium around 3,500, $4,000. If you want to be able to sit somewhere where you can actually see the field, you're probably looking at like 7, 8, 10, something like that.
All right. So I dropped the $4,000 to get into the stadium. Okay.
Vicky ain't coming to that one.
Fine. But you drop the money to get into the stadium. And then, but here's the thing. Here's where I'm benefiting. I don't have to fly from Cleveland, where the flights are going to go. They're probably going to add flights to Las Vegas if they make it. Meaning, I'm going from Chicago. I've already looked. It was like 180. Not even. Like to get because Chicago's got 10 trips to Vegas a day. It's just which airline. So I'm not worried about getting there. The travel is probably the easiest. There's direct lines to Las Vegas from Chicago all day. And then to get back home to New Jersey, Newark is a hub. You guys you know this. So I'm not worried about that. But hey, we got to beat the Texans first. This is a moot point if we come out to Houston.
I was going to say, whatever you do not book a hotel. Do not book a flight. Do not do anything. Honestly, you probably should just stop looking up flights and stop looking up hotels just to try to reverse the jinx that you've already put into place. Oh,
boy. Look, I'm confident. I'm optimistic. Could we lose to the Texans? Of course. Of course we could lose to the Texans. C.J. Stroud is playing terrific football. But the Texans really could have lost to – they didn't. But they almost lost to the Colts, who are starting Gardner Minshew. In Flacco, I trust.
You know what the Texans are going to do, Fanta? They're going to flock around and find out.
That's right. That's right. They're going to flock around and find out, Tio. You know who flocked around and found out?
The ACC?
Chris
Purdue
Mack? Chris Mack?
Oh, well, Chris Mack did. Yeah, Chris Mack did. Sean Miller somehow is in the playoffs. I'm pissed. I mean, the Steelers making the postseason, it just grosses me out. So I'm just like, I can't.
I'm going to take you, without saying what happened, I'm going to take you guys behind the scene a little bit on what happened on Sunday, okay? I was texting with Fanta. We were talking about something that had nothing to do with football, and it was while the Browns were playing the Bengals. And I decided I wanted to cause a little bit of trouble, so I created a group chat that included Fanta, who's a Browns fan, Chris Mack, who is a Bengals fan, and the Miller brothers, who are Steeler fans. And I just, got them going a little bit, right? Talked a little bit of smack. Saw if I could troll them. Sean reacted the way that you would probably expect a Steelers fan would react. Fanta reacted the way that you would expect a Browns fan to react. And Mac the whole time was just like, guys, I don't even like football. I'm watching college basketball every single night. What are you talking about? Can you please remove me from this text? I'm not a football fan.
Mac texted and said, I'm focused on college basketball and the BCS championship game. The BCS hasn't existed in over a decade.
Oh, man. T.O., how you doing, man? You good?
I'm good. Hey, speaking of Arch, man, they've won 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Big Arch got it going. No, everything's good here. I'm heading to Charlotte today for, I can't even remember who they're playing. And then I'm going up to Vermont tomorrow for UMBC Vermont, one of the 5 fastest teams in college basketball and one of the 5 slowest teams in college basketball, clashing head to head. Vermont should win by a little bit, but heading up to Burlington.
This is where I got to give a plug to my buddy Rizzo and my buddy Tippy, who are the 2 biggest UVM fans that you are ever going to find. And I'm going to text right now and say that T.O. is on the call tonight. They're going to be fired up. You were on the call for their America East championship win last year. Was it last year? 2 years ago?
It was last year. Yep.
Yeah, so they're going to.
Then my dumbass flew back down to New York to where I got. It ended up being good because we met our guy and got to go be in the basement of
You thought I was putting a hit out on you.
Oh, yeah, basically. No, dude, his place was sweet. He sent me a
nobody
text
knows
message for New Year's.
Nobody knows what's being talked about right now.
Who's it? God,
Schaefer's,
Schaefer's, the pub in New York. We went and did a show after the Big East championship game in the basement of his bar. That was awesome. And he sent me a message. I didn't get back to him. I should have got back to him.
It was technically Selection Sunday morning, too. That's the wild part about it.
Yeah.
You should hit him back right now.
The spring forward situation was brutal.
Yes.
I got 30 minutes of sleep.
Again, we talked about this in like September.
Okay.
I'm going to remind you of it again because Dauster's eyes are going to light up. Is that the Big East Championship Saturday, March 16th, is the same day as the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York, and it's St. Patrick's Day Eve. So the Big East Championship game is at 6:30. The post-game scene in New York of whoever the winning team is,
Silly.
just get ready to bar hop.
Silly.
That is going to be nuts.
When did you say it was? What date is the championship game again?
Saturday, March 16th, because Selection Sunday is St. Patrick's Day this year.
Mm-hmm. T.O., just so you know, I already have a room reserved for you Thursday through Sunday in Chelsea, about 3 blocks away from
I love that hotel, which is basically a closet.
No, it's a different one. It's a different one. I got a different one. Because you hated it so much, I got us a different hotel.
That hotel was a hotel.
Yes, it was. Theo was sitting here expecting to have like a 3-room suite, and he walked in and it was a standard hotel room in the city of New York. So
I can get up there. I might be able to get up there on Saturday.
We'll figure it out. We'll talk about it.
I can't get up there. No, I won't be able to.
All right. Well,
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. All right. So what I want to do for the pod today is I want to play either or. I have 5 either or questions that I'm going to hit you guys with. We're going to spend about 10 minutes on each topic. And I think we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. So we'll start with you, T.O. Houston or Purdue? Who are you most worried about after the 2 best teams in college basketball lost on Tuesday night?
You know what? Nebraska is really good. I'm not really shocked that people have a hard time playing there because people love Nebraska hoops. John, you were talking about it, and I'm just going to let you have that one. That's a tough place to play. I'm not necessarily worried about Purdue. Kind of their problems are the problems, but I feel like they've been able to mitigate some of those issues with the additional Lance Jones, and those guards are older. So I'm not as worried about them. Houston, there's going to be some growing pains. If nothing else, guys, because one, that conference is a beast. 2, I think the Iowa State was a very welcome, very big welcome present from the league to have to go and play at Ames. Also a tough one. And the reason I worry about them more is just simply because that league is a beast. And the Big Ten's not a beast this year. It's watered down. So I would worry a little bit more about Houston, that league, just the adjustment. Purdue, it's almost like hurry up and get to the tournament if I'm a Purdue fan.
So the answer is Houston, of who I'm concerned more about, because if it's not Jamal Shed, LJ Cryer, or Emmanuel Sharp, Houston is just offensively challenged. And when you get to the NCAA tournament, that becomes an issue. I don't care how hard you defend. At some point, you're playing 2 games in 3 days, right? Now, you think about this tournament. March Madness is the best event in sports. But when you get to the big dance floor, we've brought this up on the pod a bunch of times, but it's my favorite phrase. I almost want it on a T-shirt that I can wear in March. It's not a 6-game tournament. It's 6 one-game tournaments. When you break those up and you're playing twice in 3 days, back-to-back weekends to back, if you're going to win it all, and you're playing elite teams, that's freaking hard. And at some point, you can only defend so well. You got to have somebody have this kind of a night, or number 2 have this kind of a night. So it's Houston. I'm more concerned about them because of the strength of the Big 12. It's the best conference in the country. I think that they're going to still wreak more havoc on the Big 12 than the Big 12 will of them. There's not a lot of atmospheres like Hilton Coliseum. Now, in that league, there's some tough places to play. Hilton's some kind of special. You know, I put Hilton on a night like last night is up there with Allen Fieldhouse. I mean, if you've never been there, it's insane.
It's insane.
The fans are like one big collective group. They do everything the same way. It's special out there. Non-conference strength of schedule for Houston on KenPom is at 219, meaning they haven't been tested to the same degree as a Purdue has. Purdue's at 15th in the country. But to me, it's Houston, but the bigger answer, Rob, is that this is the nature, the climate of the sport. There is no dominant team. If you don't play your best on the road, you're going to get beat. It's hard. If you don't play well on the road, you will lose in this sport. I don't care what name is on your jersey. And, you know, I open up KenPom this morning, and Houston still won. Interesting. Arizona's 2, and Arizona lost to Stanford. Purdue is 3, and Auburn's 4. Auburn, I think, is better than the AP ranking, better than what a lot of people think.
Save the Auburn, Amro. We got Auburn coming up.
But I think that's most indicative of the climate of this sport, is that you would not ever guess that the common fan wouldn't guess that Auburn is fourth in KenPom. It just goes to show you March is going to be insane again. Parity's off the charts in college basketball, and there's not one dominant team. So when number one and number two lose on a given night, hell, as we're doing this podcast, Kansas will likely beat UCF, but could UConn lose tonight and 3 of the top 4 have lost? Of course. That's very real in the sport of college basketball. Go on the road at your own risk.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely 100% right. To be frank, I'm not worried about either of these teams. If I had to say I was worried about one of them more, it would be Houston, and it would have nothing to do with the loss that they took last night. It's just I don't think that they have as much offensive firepower, and I think that when you're reliant on offensive rebounds and stingy defense to be able to win games, that can kind of limit your ceiling on the nights when your guards aren't making shots. I do just want to make one point about Purdue. I thought that what Nebraska did defensively was really interesting, and I don't remember another team doing this. They basically hedged, and they forced Braden Smith to not beat them in pick and rolls. They kind of trapped every pick and roll. I think you would probably just call it like a hard hedge. But they sent 2 guys at him until he gave up the ball. And every time Zach Edey touched it, they sent like 2, sometimes 3 guys at him. So their entire game plan was like, we're not going to let Braden Smith score, and we're not going to let Zach Edey score, and anybody else can try to beat us. And Purdue still put up 72 points on the road in a really tough environment. So I'm not worried about what they are offensively. Look at their 2 losses. They've given up 180 points in 2 losses at Nebraska and at Northwestern. They have allowed those 2 teams to shoot 24 for 43 from 3, which is, T.O., you're our expert shooter here. Are those good numbers?
That sounds pretty good.
And they've forced a grand total of 12 turnovers in 85 minutes of basketball. Remember, Northwestern, that game went to overtime. The issue for them is on the defensive end of the floor. And I don't know if I'm actually worried about them. Like, if you go back and you watch the film from last night, Kizi Tamanaga hit some ridiculous threes, and that's kind of what he does, and that's kind of why he's good.
Both teams that they lost to have explosive guards.
Yes, and those guys got off, and I would say that CJ Wilcher last night hit a bunch of tough threes. I don't know if it's as much Purdue lost that game or choked it away, or it was like anything to write home about, and more like Nebraska kicked their ass and showed up and looked like the Nebraska that John Fanta spent the entire offseason.
He did. You nailed that one.
Yeah.
You nailed that one like a split hog.
You nailed it like a split hog. All right. We'll get to Nebraska and Iowa State in 1 second. Last thing I do want to say on Purdue is that, look, you lose on the road in league play. I'm firmly of the belief that we are a little bit too reactionary in college basketball media.
No.
We are. We that's what we do. And I think Field 68 is kind of we tap into that a little bit, especially with the fan bases and our headlines. There's nothing better than a nice
is Purdue the best team in the country? Is Kansas the best team in the country? Is Houston the best team in the country?
There is none. There's nobody else.
But here's just on that real quick. Yeah. The way that the YouTube algorithm works, you are very much incentivized to have some kind of clickbait title and clickbait thumbnail. That's not just sports. That's literally everybody that has success on YouTube. It's just the nature of what it is. If you enjoy the content, then can we just get past the fact that that's what you have to do to have a successful business on YouTube in the year 2024? It is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm not worried about either of these teams. They're 2 of the at worst 5 best teams in the country, and I would say they're probably close to the 2 best teams in the country still, even after losing on the same night last night. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 each and every week of the college basketball season. We have a special offer that will be available starting on Tuesday, January 9th and running through Monday, February 12th, the morning after Super Bowl 58. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, in honor of the big game, you can use the bonus code FIELD158 and you'll get $158 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code 158. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD158 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create separate accounts in each state. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the heart of the college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and my favorite, a nice juicy parlay boost. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Field 158. All right, either or number 2. Fanta, we got to go to you first on this one. Iowa State or Nebraska? Who are you riding with more? Is it the Cyclones? Is it the Cornhuskers? Which Midwestern state is going to hate you after you say that they're not the team that you're with?
Well, the state of Iowa already hates Terrence Oglesby, but I guess
Come on over. Come on over.
Hey, those are the Hawkeyes, though. Those are the Hawkeyes. That's not the Cyclones.
Come on over. Ames can get it too, that boring ass city. They can get it too.
Look, I've been the leader of the Nebraska parade, so I'm not going to back off on it now. I love this team, and I'll tell you why. They're loaded with experience. Their average age is around 22, 23, and they have a superstar. Casey Tominaga is one of the most fun players in college hoops. Last night, he had a Steph Curry shot that just sent Lincoln into a frenzy, and I love it. And I got to tell you guys, we get around to media days, okay? And we talk with coaches and programs. And Fred Hoiberg sat down, and he obviously has had a couple of tough seasons in Lincoln. Not an easy place to win, okay? And
Which is crazy.
He sits. What's that?
It is a hard place to win because it's hard to get guys to come out and visit Nebraska.
Right.
Like
It'll be easier now that they got this.
If you just get them on freaking campus,
right?
I understand.
Greg McDermott would say the same thing. He'd say the hardest part of recruiting was getting the kids here. Mm-hmm. Then we started to win, and now we're getting those kids. Okay. So here's the thing. He sat down, he talks with the media, and I happen to be sitting next to two of his beat reporters because if you know one thing about Nebraska, they get a lot of viewership. They get a lot of coverage. They're a huge brand in the college sports landscape. They matter. They matter to TV partners. I don't care what the sport is. They do huge numbers, whether it's football, basketball, or volleyball. And the Fred gets done talking, and I kind of said to the two beat reporters, I'm like, wow, like, I don't know Fred well, but he seems like a really nice guy. Mm-hmm. And they're like, he's the easiest coach we've dealt with in our 20 years on the beat. Football, basketball, baseball, volleyball. They're like, we want him to win because he's
the mayor.
He's the mayor. He is. He's that type of guy. Guys, the way he talked about his team in October was different than previous Big Ten media days. He basically said, look, we have experience. We have depth. We now have some guard play. I've got rink masked to make things happen inside. I've got Juwan Gary. I've got CJ Wilcher, who's been around the block a couple of times. He said, we have the pieces to be a good team. And he didn't mean it like coach speak at a media day. He meant it. And when he got off that podium, he said, okay, Fred Hoiberg has to either win this year with this team or in Lincoln, it's never going to work out. And he's winning with this team. This Nebraska team now has as good a win as anybody in the sport of college basketball. And as we wake up today, they're sitting at 13-3 on the season. The next question for this team is, can they go on the road and win? Because they got blown out by Wisconsin, who's better than I think we all think. They're at Iowa on Friday night. They're at Iowa. Now, Iowa is 9-6, not having a particularly good year, not a tournament team. Nebraska, if you are in fact legit, you know how to handle this success. You go into Iowa and you win that game because then you're going to Rutgers. And Rutgers is not particularly good this year, but they're better at the rack. They're better at that building. They're very tough. Nebraska, show me you can win on the road. But I'm on your train. I'm going to stay on your train. I think you will dance this year. You know why? On Selection Sunday, if you're on the bubble, you will have the win that everybody envies.
Exactly. T.O., go ahead.
No, hey, look, I couldn't watch the game because it was on Peacock last night. I was watching a bunch of other ones, but Nebraska, I just like the blend of their guys. And how'd you pronounce it? Rink Mast. That guy's a good player. And it just comes down to Hoiberg has the right blend of dudes. He's got an explosive guard in Tominaga. And I made a joke last year whenever he decided he was coming back. I was like, where the hell were you going to go? And I still mean that. Like, man, enjoy your experience. Be a really good college player because, like, you can get paid. Now, stay in Nebraska, get paid, enjoy your time, be there. Don't go anywhere. Don't decide to declare for anything. You're a good college player. Stay there. Speaking from experience. That all being said, I like Juwan Gary. I think he's a terrific role guy. This was a top 40 kid in high school, too. So, like, there's talent there. CJ Wilcher has been around the block. Like, if I had to pick one or two, I would say Nebraska because they do have that explosive type guard situation that can reel off 9 to 12 points in a row. That's why if I had to pick between the two, and Iowa State's good. I think Lipsey's a good player. He's one of those low-scoring, high-impact guys, which I'm a fan of because not everybody can be high-level scorers. Some guys have to do the other things. I'm a fan of his, but I like this Nebraska team because of that explosive ability, and I like Mass' ability to go inside and out. If I had to pick one of the two, I think Hoiberg's a good coach. He just finally has the right blend of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just argue the other side of it. I tend to agree with you guys. The one thing I love about Kesey real quick is that he looks like he is 11 years old and he comes out here and every shot he hits, he just gets the biggest smile on his face. And it looks like it's the happiest moment of his entire life.
I'm saying. Don't leave. Don't go anywhere. Enjoy enjoy where you're at, man.
He hit one last night late in the first half to put Nebraska up 9. And he's running down the court. He's got his hands behind his ears like this. He's just like,
headband on.
Looking like he's headband on, looking like he is living the absolute dream. Like there is a middle schooler out there just cooking the #1 team in college. It was awesome, man. You don't go into Pinnacle Bank Arena and expect that you're going to be able to get a win. They put 15,000 people in that place when they suck. Imagine what it is when they're good. I will say about Iowa State, though, I love what they can be defensively. I love how tough they are. I love the way they can force turnovers. And if you're going to give me a guy that can be the engine at the point of attack defensively, the point of attack offensively, and has figured out how to shoot the ball in Taman Lipsey, I think that is a pretty good situation to be in. I would love if they had like one more shooter. If the kid, the Pavletsky kid, could be a little bit more of an impact guy. If Curtis Jones could be a little bit more of an impact guy, he's actually been pretty good off the bench. But I think that they're dangerous, and I am buying into the idea that there are some of these teams where you look at their computer numbers and you're like, I don't think that they're as good as those computer numbers are kind of saying. One of them would probably be BYU, who I think they rose all the way to like number 3 or something
Big 12
that.
Bump.
Yeah,
Big 12 bump.
Yeah, they were like number 3. Now they're down to a number 11, and the water is starting to find its level there. Iowa State to me is, I mean, they're 17th in KenPom right now. They're way up in like the top 25 in the net, and I'm kind of buying them as being close to that. I don't know if I would call them a top 20 team just yet, but I think that they're close to there. All right, either or number 3. I teased this one a little bit before. You got to attach your wagon. Well, it's Auburn or Kentucky. You got to attach your wagon. You're going to go all in. You're going to be the biggest bandwagon fan for one of these programs because you think that they have the best chance to go out and win you a national title. Is it Auburn or is it Kentucky? T.O., I'll go to you first.
Kentucky. We're talking upside, and we're talking national title. I'm picking Kentucky just because. Long story short, I just love the blend of their guys, too. I talked about the blend a little bit with Hoiberg. I think the same thing applies with Kentucky, especially with Bradshaw back in the fold. Look, I watched that Auburn game yesterday, and the fact that they were able to win a rock fight says a lot. They got some guys. There's a lot of toughness on that team. But just as far as talent is concerned, whenever you're playing in the Final Four, it's always good. And we've seen it over the past couple of years to make sure that you have the best player on the floor on that given night. And here's the thing about Kentucky: on a given night, DJ Wagner can be the best player on the floor. On a given night, Dillingham can be the best player on the floor. On a given night, and it's been most nights, Reed Shepherd can be the best player on the floor, and then Aaron Bradshaw could be the best player on the floor. So it's just a matter of so many more offensive weapons. Not saying Auburn doesn't have it. not saying that by any stretch of the imagination, because like I said before, love Auburn, love that team. If we're picking a national championship contender with pieces, with size, the way they're playing offense this year, I have to go Kentucky. And I love the Auburn team, but I have to go Kentucky.
Fanta?
I'm going to go with Auburn. And I totally respect what T.O. just said about upside, but I still worry about Kentucky with 2.5 minutes to go in an NCAA tournament game and it's tied up and it comes down to half-court offense. So I think that's very real. I think that happens, and I still have my reservations with who's taking the shot, even though they've got a couple of guys who can do it. And just if a game is in a half-court for half-court, X's and O's, what's going to happen? So Auburn, to me, Bruce Pearl has shown he can do it, and did it in 2019 with a remarkable run to the Final Four. And we were talking early in the season about Aiden Holloway, and the fact is Holloway has cooled off here from the field. But Jalen Williams has 20-plus points in 3 of his last 5 games. He's really scoring the basketball at a high level. Chad Baker-Mazara has come off the bench and been a microwave guy. He was not against Texas A&M, but this Auburn team guards. Mm-hmm. And they guard at an extremely high level. They're better defensively than Kentucky. They are currently 6th in adjusted defensive efficiency. Kentucky is 44th. So that's why I say half-court game, late in the game. If Kentucky's the most lethal transition team in America. But if they're not getting that, they're a little bit different. Auburn can deal with that. They can beat you in a rock fight. They can beat you in a close game. They've got Janai Broome. Janai Broome is just holding things down for this team in the front court. And he didn't even have a great game against Texas A&M. Broome and Holloway should have combined 3 for 10 from the floor, and Auburn beats Texas A&M by double figures. That tells me everything I need to know about this team right now. KD Johnson, isn't he your nightmare fuel guy?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? He's still running on that nightmare fuel. He comes in, he hits a couple of threes for them. He's a surge guy. He's a spurt ability guy. Donaldson will help them as the season goes along. Bruce is not afraid to play 8 or 9 guys. Now, Kentucky could do that too, to their credit. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to hitch my wagon to Auburn. I'm going to hitch my wagon to Bruce Pearl. I like the way that this team guards more than Kentucky does.
So on December 21st, I did an episode of After Dark with Matt McCall and John Henson. And one of the things that we did there was updated Final Four predictions. I had Auburn and I had Kentucky, both of them making the Final Four. I am very high on both of these teams. I think that I would probably have to go with Kentucky in this situation because of the upside, right? I think your point about they have like 4 or 5 different guys who can be the best player on the floor on any given night is probably the most important thing that I would probably buy into. And it makes me a little bit less concerned about the defensive issues because I think that at some point you're just going to have somebody go off. And when somebody goes off, you'll be in enough games that are close enough where you'll have a chance. Like the Florida game is a perfect example. DJ Wagner and Antonio Reeves both went nuts, and it didn't matter that Reed Shepherd and Robert Dillingham didn't play well enough. It kept them close, and they were able to win it down the stretch. To me, that the defense is less of a concern for Kentucky than the fact that I'll be honest. I really like Aiden Holloway. I'm a little bit concerned about Aiden Holloway being your best guard, right? Like he's a freshman. He's a little bit smaller. He's a little bit of a microwave scorer. I think that in a best case scenario, when we're talking about like top 5, top 8 teams, you probably want him to be like your 6th man. It's fine if we're talking top 20, one of the better teams in the SEC, a second weekend kind of a team. If we're talking national titles, that would be, am I crazy, T.O.? Like, I just feel like you're buying into a freshman that's a little bit smaller, that's a little bit shot happy, maybe a little bit inefficient at times.
We're buying into Dillingham in the Final Four. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, but it's not just Dillingham. They have Reed Shepherd, who I think is their best guard, and they have DJ Wagner, and they have Antonio Reeves.
That's where I'm at. I mean, it just depends on, like, when you have that many options that can go for 25, and it would surprise me a bit if, like, we're kind of waiting on DJ Wagner, waiting on him, Elite Eight game, 30. Like one of those things. That's where the selling point is for me on them. Just so many different guys, and they've been able to kind of inch some of those guys along. Like DJ hasn't been great at times, but like because there's so many other guys on that roster, they've just been able to like, hey, we're going to continue playing you because the other guys are going to hold their pants up. We'll be fine.
Yeah. So for the record, I think DJ has kind of reached that point where he's arrived, right? The last 3 games, he's averaging 15 points. He has not taken more than 10 shots in any of those 3 games, 9 assists to 5 turnovers. I think DJ he's officially here. He hasn't had more than 3 turnovers in a single game this season. And he's putting up like pretty efficient.
There's value in that.
I partially took Auburn because once upon a time I took North Carolina to end Mike Krzyzewski's career. You're there's nothing wrong with being the outlier,
and there's nothing wrong with backing this Auburn team. Like they're awesome. They're awesome. They are really, really damn good.
They won a different game yesterday.
Yes,
they won a different game.
Here's the debate, right? Great debate. Are we buying Kentucky to the degree that we're buying because they've been down in recent years?
No.
You see my question though? Do you get
I see what you're saying. There's kind of a renewed excitement because Kentucky's quote unquote back, right? I would say no. Well, they're lost to Kansas, and then they lost to
UNC Wilmington,
which is basically that was a bunch of freshmen that were asleep at the wheel.
Yeah,
like I'm not. Ever since then, they've reeled off 6 in a row. I'm a lot less worried now. They got a tough one coming up at Texas A&M Saturday, so we'll see how they deal with that environment. But I'm a buyer, and there's some credence there. I think a lot of people are excited that Kentucky's quote unquote back, but it's I think it's more for good cause. Kentucky's playing, what are they, 14th in the country in adjusted tempo. They're playing fast, man. It's fun. Yeah. It's a fun game to watch.
All right, so I have another great embrace debate for you guys, because the game that I'll be going to next, that is not like a local game, is heading up to Providence for Ed Cooley's return. We're going to go Georgetown at Providence, and follow that up with Xavier at UConn. That's where we're at right now. I think the next trip that I want to make, out of all the games in college basketball that I would have a chance to go to, I think I want to go to Kentucky at Auburn. It's going to be February 17th. It is All-Star weekend, so it's going to be the ESPN game. It's a 6:00 tip, which means it's going to lead directly into the dunk contest for NBA All-Star weekend. I think that is, to me, that is the game to circle on the college basketball calendar. Look, the style of plays, how loud Auburn Arena is going to be, the fact that these are 2 Final Four good teams. Is that crazy? Is there a better game that you would circle to target in terms of anything in college basketball that doesn't have to do with tournaments, conference, or NCAA?
That's got to be the best game of the day, you would think.
It also happens to be Marquette at UConn that day, and Kansas at Oklahoma. So it's a loaded Saturday. But that's a standard Saturday moving forward. The rest of the college hoops calendar, the Saturdays are really, really good. Every Saturday has really good games.
Didn't we talk to Bruce a couple of years ago? He said, "Yeah, come on down. You can do it from the where the students camp out and stuff, and they'll be camped out that game."
Oh yeah, knowing Bruce, he'd probably let us do it from his backyard if we really wanted to.
Yeah, he probably would.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, probably would.
That's going to be really that's going to be that Saturday. Holy crap! Kansas at Oklahoma, Utah State at Colorado State.
Yep.
Wow, February 17th, baby. Yeah. And Marquette UConn is, I believe, on campus at Campbell, which just makes it a totally different monster.
Yes.
Nevada at UNLV.
Is that where you'll be?
Yeah.
That'll be a good game, though. UNLV beat the brakes off New Mexico last night, for the record. The Mountain West is completely drunk.
It's a bear.
Colorado State went on the road, and they lost at Utah State on Saturday, and they lost at Boise State last night. And for the record, if you want to get I still think a 6-bid Mountain West is something that is possible. UNLV getting another big win now that they're a different team with Keelan Boone, and Boise State finally getting a marquee win. we're going to have a real conversation about how many teams from the Mountain West get in the tournament. Now that the college football season is in the past and college basketball is in full swing, I need to tell you guys about our partners over at Rhythm. If you're into sports betting, you need Rhythm, the place for data-backed props and picks. For those that are unfamiliar, Rhythm, spelled RITHMM, is the go-to mobile app for player props and game picks. Backed by AI predictive models, Rhythm helps you make smarter and faster betting decisions across all sports, but particularly college hoops, where there are as many as 150 games a day during conference play, many of which have softer lines at BetMGM than you'll find in the NFL or in the NBA. With Rhythm, you get data-backed picks for every Division I game every day. Users get free picks daily with the ability to upgrade to unlimited access. And for those of you already using modeling, you can build custom sports betting models within the Rhythm app itself. I am a Rhythm user, and I found that I've been a better bettor when I focus on the lines where my gut and Rhythm's modeling are aligned. To kick off the partnership between the Field of 68 and Rhythm, 3 people who download Rhythm at the link below and create an account between now and the end of the day on Thursday will be entered for a chance to win a free subscription with access to unlimited picks for college basketball, the NBA, the NFL, and more. So if you want to increase your edge and win more bets, go to the link in the description and download Rhythm today. That's RITHMM, the place for data-backed props and picks. All right. I want to revisit a conversation that we had in the preseason, and I don't want to do any trolling. I don't want to like the typical like, hey, T.O., how's the ACC doing? Hey, Fanta, how's the Big East? You know, I want to have a real conversation. ACC or the Big East, which league right now would you call more successful and better? Because I think there's arguments both ways. And honestly, I think it's kind of flipped compared to what it was in the preseason.
Go ahead, John. I'm going to let you go on this one.
Well, so I think what you're saying about things flipping is you're looking at the ACC, and the very thing that we were criticizing the ACC for in the preseason is now something that you could look at with the Big East. But in terms of the top of the leagues. So the top of the ACC is better than we thought. The top of the Big East is not as good as we thought it was. And we said that the top of the Big East would carry this league and be able to get it more bids, which is exactly what's now happening. But the top of the Big East is suffering a little bit as a result. Look, I think UConn, when Donovan Clingan is in, is the best team in the country. I really believe that. And Tristan Newton, when he's on, fully on, they're the best team in America. They lost to Kansas. The other shooters around Newton had an off night, but they were in it at Allen Fieldhouse. There's nothing wrong with that. The Big East is deeper than the ACC right now. Does it mean that it will be in 4 weeks? We got to see. We got to see how how does Providence handle life without Bryce Hopkins? Does this make them a bubble team? Does this make them a team that now is missing the tournament altogether? We'll see. Their non-conference isn't exactly loaded with great results. They did beat the doors off Wisconsin,
which will be a valuable win.
Yeah, and they did beat Marquette. I think that's the question mark in the Big East right now. Marquette looks to be having some issues. They're not as deep as they were last year, and David Joplin hasn't fully filled that void left by Olivier Maxence Prosper. It's been too big for him. And Kolek's off, guys. Kolek's not playing very well right now. He was a non-factor at Seton Hall. He went 1 for 6 in that game. I mean, what's going on? Can Seton Hall prevail? Like, is this just a 3 or 4 week thing, or is this going to be? Now, I actually think that it is going to be something that continues, because I think Shaheen Holloway's figured it out, and he's got a team right now that over the last 4 weeks, 4 guys are averaging in double figures. That core 4 of Richmond, Dawes, Dre Davis, and Wusu. St. John's is my dark horse. I think St. John's they've won 9 of 11. If you watch St. John's today, T.O., as opposed to November, it's pretty unbelievable how much they've grown as a team. They're a dangerous, dangerous team. But the Big East right now has good teams. Good teams. They have one great team. Marquette's not even great right now. Creighton's not great right now. Villanova's certainly not great. They're inconsistent. So the Big East is deeper than we thought it was in early December, but it's actually come at the expense of the top. Whereas the ACC, Duke keeps picking up steam. North Carolina can make the national championship game.
Yes.
They're tough defensively. They have veterans. Hubert Davis, I think, is on this revenge tour. I like it. I like the makeup of their team. I still love Clemson.
Hubert's done a nice job with that team this year.
I still love Clemson. And last I checked, Jim Larrañaga is still the coach at Miami. And his team's getting better and better and better. So it's back and forth. I think the better league is the Big East. But I think the top of the ACC is better right now than the Big East.
I would agree with all that. I think it's very interesting. I would probably say the best team right now, with the Donovan Clingan injury factored in, the best team in the ACC is better than the best team in the Big East. The second best team in the ACC is better than the second best team in the Big East. And the third best team in the ACC is better than the third best team in the Big East. And then once you get past that, all of those.
Okay,
but real quick before you make your point, I want you to elaborate on what you said about Hubert Davis doing a nice job.
He has done a nice job. This year's a little bit different. He's fit those pieces together. He's convinced Elliot Cadeau not to shoot the ball whenever they go under screens. And what ends up happening is, even though he kind of gets stonewalled right at the beginning, like that offense continues to move. And I think Hubert's taken a lot of pressure off of Armando Bacot by putting the emphasis offensively on Harrison Ingram and letting some of those other guys shoot it. And he's allowed Armando Bacot to do what he does best, and that's crash the offensive boards and just be a bully. He's a bully. There's no other way to put that. He's a bully. I think Hubert's done a really nice job with North Carolina, and I think that team fits. I still get nervous whenever Wojcik gets in that game. That's the only thing that – and I'm sure he's a great kid. I know his dad's a nice guy. It's just I don't think he's a North Carolina player. And I think he was really good at Brown. I just don't know that it necessarily translated. I think he plays hard. He's so scrappy to a point of, it worries you. But it just, whenever we get to that point on the bench, it worries me a little bit. So after the fourth best team in the AC, so who's your top three? Because that argument right there intrigued me, because when you start going one by one, that was an intriguing argument. The problem is where the Big East has 11 teams, the ACC has 15. That's really our problem. It's the same problem the Big 12 is going to have at the end of the season by adding some of these teams from the other leagues. It's going to bring the top down a little bit. Is that not true, Fanta? Who's the fourth best? Okay, so
the Big East has two awful teams.
Okay.
So to me, it's not true, because you're saying you're holding it against the Big East for having fewer teams. Meanwhile,
I'm holding it against the ACC for having more teams.
But I think you're also holding it against the Big East for having fewer teams. You're saying the Big East is advantageous for having fewer teams.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
What about the Big Ten? Big Ten keeps on.
We're not talking about the Big Ten right now. I'm talking about the Big East.
But I'm saying no. But the Big Ten,
that wasn't the question, Fanta. You can't just mold that argument. What are you doing?
The Big Ten has more teams. The Big Ten
can't do that, Fanta. We're talking about two conferences.
Hold on. How many bids will the Big Ten get?
I don't care right now. I'm sitting here talking about.
They'll get 7 or 8.
Fanta, I don't care. We're talking about the Big East and the ACC.
If you have more teams, you shouldn't be faulted. The Big Ten has more teams, and they get the same.
Okay, so Fanta, fine. So the bottom 4 of the ACC are obviously not, or bottom 3, really. Bottom 3, in my opinion. Notre Dame, who, by the way, Shrews coaching his nuts off. Is coaching his nuts off. Good for him. They started out 2 and 3. There's more pitfalls in the ACC than there are in the Big East, and not only are they those pitfalls in the Big East might as well be low major games. Those 2 at the bottom this year, whoa, buddy. It is. There's no chance of losing those games. There's no chance of losing those games. In the ACC, those bottom teams are better than the worst teams in the Big East. So you can get picked off by one of those teams at the bottom of the ACC. Am I wrong in saying that? Who does Georgetown beat in the ACC? Louisville? It's a close game. And I actually think Louisville wins.
Georgetown beat Notre Dame.
Yeah. And you know who DePaul beat?
Louisville.
Louisville.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got me there. All right, I'll shut the fuck up. Yeah, you got me there. I just think that those bottom two teams are much easier to beat on a given night than the bottom teams in the ACC.
I would say when you take Louisville out of the equation, I actually do agree with you because I think that Notre Dame has kind of figured some things out. They're going to be Notre Dame's going to give people a lot of problems because they figured out how to guard and they got to do it in what the hell's the point guard's name?
Marcus
Burton.
Marcus
Burton. They got a dude that can give you 30 on any night. So Notre Dame's going to find a way to win like 3 games, and you're going to be like, where the hell did that come from? Like, for example, Virginia. Real quick, T.O., circling back one more time.
Who's the 4th best team in the ACC?
I think Miami is the 4th best team in the ACC. I would say the top 3.
Who's the 4th best team? Who's the 4th best team? You think Villanova is the 4th best team?
I would say depending on it's one of Villanova, Seton Hall, or St. John's. And I think it's I was going to say I would probably lean towards St. John's right now.
It's neutral site. Who wins, St. John's or Miami?
Tight, man. Big, great game.
Okay, so 5th best team. Who do you think?
I'd say Miami. I'd say Miami's favored by 3.
Yeah,
4. Okay, so the top 4 teams in the ACC matched up head to head without Donovan Clingan given.
But he's going to be back.
I don't think. Look, I don't think I would probably take St. John's in that matchup.
Now you're just being contrarian.
No,
that's all you're doing. You've already
they're higher ranked in the metrics, and I think that
they are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So 5th best team, ACC. Who are we putting there?
Wake Forest probably, and I would put one of Seton Hall or Villanova, and I would pick the Big East in that one. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I mean, hold on a second. Villanova is the only team that's undefeated against Quadrant 1. They're 4-0. Like, before we write their death note, I'm
not writing anybody's death note. Fanta, I'm just going down the list.
We just picked Villanova to beat Wake Forest.
I know, but we're like, it's not
Villanova. You're going to go on the road and you're going to beat a team coached by Steve Forbes with Boopie Miller, but you're dead.
No, I'm not saying that. I just think.
Can't believe you killed Kyle Neptune, Fanta.
I think we're being dismissive of Villanova a little bit.
They got to get Justin Moore back, and then
they do.
We can have a conversation, like a bigger conversation about what Villanova is. Without Justin Moore, they're just kind of like they're kind of holding on and keeping themselves relevant. In the meantime, after the top 5, like where are you for teams in the ACC? Is it NC State that's the next best team after that?
11-3, 3-0 in league. They're not bad.
So against Seton Hall.
Yeah, it's currently 12:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, January 10th, which means in exactly 7 hours and 50 minutes, North Carolina is going to go on the road to play NC State. So I'm going to reserve any takes on NC State until after seeing that game because I just don't think we know what NC State is at this point. But the point being, top 3 right now, no Donovan Clingan. Top 3 in the ACC is better. 4th, okay, we can make an argument, whatever you want. And then once you get past that, it's probably all Big East, I think is the way that I would phrase it. So
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? Like in the preseason, we probably would have argued the exact opposite. How the turntables have turned, T.O.
Oh, how the turntables.
Oh, how the turntables have turned. I got to mention Vaulted. Vaulted is an app where you can challenge your friends and store your predictions forever. It's VLTED. You can download it from any app store that you're in and any app store where you get these things for absolutely free. So if you want to challenge your friends and store your predictions, go download the app. Here is my challenge to you guys. RC, John, I am still saying that FAU is going to find a way to win the American Conference regular season title. Is that crazy? Am I out of my mind? Am I drunk? I might be a little bit drunk.
You might be, but I don't necessarily think it's crazy. I mean, a lot of basketball to play.
I'll say this. Yes, because we've seen them do it before, and I think all the parts are there. If there's a concern that I have for Florida Atlantic, and I've said all along, I love their culture and how they play when they play the correct way. They look like the games here where they just expect like they know it's going to happen. That's the only thing about them that was surprising to me is where they look like, all right, we're better than you. Like they don't have to come out and play. Like they can just go hit the button on the wall. And that's concerning. But the talent's there. I think they can make a run.
All right. Last thing, and we don't have to spend too long on this, but I ranted about this quite a bit on Sunday night, and I'm just kind of curious you guys' opinion. Juwan Howard, Mick Cronin. Obviously, Juwan Howard didn't coach on Sunday. He allowed Phil Martelli to coach a midseason game when they still have something to play for on the road in Philadelphia. Obviously, Phil Martelli.
Did he do media after the game? Did Juwan do media or did Phil?
I think Phil did. I think Phil did.
Okay. At least Mick called it, coached his own game.
Yeah, and then didn't do media. Neither of them did. Who is I guess more in the wrong? Who you more upset with? TL, I'll go to you first on that.
Hey, look, Mick's frustrated. But he's dealing with a different beast in LA media. Like you can't just blow those guys off. Go there, take the blame. It takes 5 minutes. Everybody kind of understands. Like, you're not very good. He's not on the hot seat. Now, if he has 3 seasons like this, be on the hot seat. He's not on the hot seat. Just go there and take a charge. It's not a big deal. The weird one to me, I can't get over just how weird it is. There's 2 teams, the weirdness just blows my mind. Louisville's weird, and the fact that they're staying with their guns, and the other one is Michigan. It's just weird. I don't know what else to say about it. Phil Martelli's coached plenty of games in Philly. What did we do? Like, it's just strange. The whole thing, like, Juwan is just in over his head. I think he was excited to be a Michigan guy and come back home, and I think he's lost a little bit of interest.
And I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that he had the heart surgery and the heart scare. We can't just gloss over the fact like that. That might impact somebody's output. And Juwan does not talk to a lot of people in the media, so it's very difficult to kind of sit here and say we know what he's thinking. Whereas everybody that
it was also told to the media that this wasn't a heart thing. He was completely healthy. He was on the bench. He was still participating in. Can't have one way and not the other.
Yeah, I don't.
So he was coaching his son Jet, who's now in the NBA, and his son Jet's better than his other son. So, like you just, I think you're more invested when you know your kid's a stud. But I also think I don't know,
invested as he wanted to be. Did he make the tournament with Jet?
Juwan Howard has been to an Elite 8 and a Sweet 16.
With whose players?
With John Beilein's players.
Yeah,
but he still made it deep into the NCAA.
I'm not discrediting that, but I also think I think there's a lot of guys, especially when they come in after a coach that really harps on fundamentals like crazy. I think you reap the benefits for 2 through 3 years because those guys are already drilled to death. Yeah.
I think maybe one now in the current climate.
In the current climate, but it wasn't the current climate back when he made the Elite 8 and Sweet 16. That's kind of my argument.
Drilled to death sounds like it's something that would be very, very painful. I'm just imagining someone Black and Decker.
What's that? Oh, yeah, drilled to death.
Drilled to death.
Mick Cronin, Mick's got to be better. He knows that. It's an immature bout, and it's Mick. This is part of Mick. He would do this at Cincinnati too.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter as much in Cincinnati as it matters in Los Angeles, where a big-time columnist like Bill Plaschke can write something and it goes explosive on the internet. So Mick's got to be better. That's immature. Mick Cronin's been doing this too long to be missing press conferences. And he knows that. Mick is a really, really good college basketball coach.
Yes.
He's top 15 to 20. Mick, you know this. You got to be better than that. Juwan, right now, the best thing for Juwan Howard is that Jim Harbaugh hoisted a trophy on Monday night.
Exactly.
And Ward Manuel, the Michigan AD, was celebrating, and the Michigan Board of Regents is all celebrating because their football program's Kings of the Hill. If their football program wasn't Kings of the Hill, I think. But here's the thing: he's still a Michigan man. And so the issue is you're not going to fire someone mid-season. I think we all know.
No.
We all know how this is going to end. It's sad. It's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, we all kind of saw this coming. This team was picked to finish 11th in their league, and they'll be lucky to finish 11th.
Yeah. I agree with everything you guys are saying on Michigan. Just one real quick point on Mick. I take quite a bit of exception with what he's been saying about his players. And missing the press conference, like whatever, it's a bad look, but he was pissed. People get mad and do things that they regret all the time. Certainly I can fall into that category. I have much bigger issue with what he's saying about his players, insinuating that they're dumb, insinuating that they don't understand what he's trying to run, questioning their intelligence, questioning their aptitude for learning. And I said this on After Dark.
So messed up. Those kids aren't even speaking their first language.
Dude, he bet big on bringing in a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds from Europe in August to play a college basketball season that starts in November, when all of these players are learning to speak English, learning how to go to class, learning how to be a student, adjusting to the American way of life, adjusting to the American way of basketball, adjusting to being in America. T.O., you could probably speak to this better than either of us, dealing with the homesickness of playing in a country that is 8, 9, 10 hour time difference away from your home country, right? And doing all this with 19-year-olds, and now their head
some
coach,
of those guys are on the West Coast.
Yeah, and now your head coach is out here in press conferences calling you dumb. I'm sure cussing their ass out in practice nonstop. Like, you want to know why UCLA sucks right now? It's because Mick Cronin has taken a group of really talented kids, 18 and 19-year-old kids, and completely beat the confidence out of them. I think Mick has done this to himself. I will be very, very critical of Mick Cronin for everything that he's done here. And honestly, if this is his audition for the Louisville job, you know what? Not having a very good one.
Yep.
It's a tough one. He's used to veteran, tough-minded guards, and because he wasn't getting as much NIL money as other places, he had to go overseas and get some talented kids. And the problem is when you're wanting to play slow, beat 'em up basketball, and you're wanting to call every set, you're kind of taking away what those guys are good at.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like like, for example, I mean, this is kind of a weird situation, but I'll never forget the first time I saw Fran Fraschilla after I left college. We went to I went and played in Euro camp. And he said, I love this camp because all these kids, they look like they've been playing together forever by day 2. And it's because they're smart. They know where to go. They know where to pass. They know where to ball fake. If you're trying to micromanage what they're going to do, you're going to have a hard time. And Mick is a micromanager. So it's kind of a square peg, round hole.
Yeah, but my biggest look, all of that makes sense. But my biggest thing is that Mick Cronin made the decision to bring these players. He didn't have to. He didn't have to bring these guys in. He made the decision to bring these dudes onto campus. And now he's going to sit here and cry about the decision that he made because they are not living up to the expectations that he had, that I don't think anybody else on the planet had. These are the guys you brought in. You made this decision, Mick. You should have known what you were getting yourself into. Don't call them dumb obviously it's something that you did was dumb because you weren't prepared for what you were actually getting. That's all I'm saying.
Who's Mick a disciple of?
Rick Pitino.
What was Rick saying in November?
That his guys weren't good enough, but like, he coached them up. He figured it out. Now, part of that is because he doesn't have like all of his kids assuming they can speak English, right?
Now Rick has gotten tired of, now his players have figured it out. So now he's going after someone new.
Mm-hmm. Yes. He is.
Yep.
And it's a great thing for the Big East. It's a great thing for college basketball. Look, Fanta, I love, we said this on the last pod, so we don't have to like go all the way into this, but I love the idea of Dan Hurley versus Rick Pitino becoming like the rivalry in the Big East. That would be awesome.
Lou. This is some Succession Billions type crap. Don't disrespect Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Lose 99.
Yeah. Here's the difference in the way that Pitino attacked his guys, and it was very similar in how they did it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Jordan Dingle, senior. Ledlam, senior. Soriano, senior. Yep. Dennis Jenkins, senior. RJ Luis was injured when he went on that whole thing. Like, that's the difference. Naheem Aline, senior. Glenn Taylor, junior. Like, older guys, tougher guys that are used to being talked to a certain way. Like, Eastern European kids, when you go grab that, they're used to being talked to a certain way, but they're also used to being explained things. And then they have the adequate practice time to figure it out after they've been talked to a certain way, if that makes sense, because they're practicing 4 hours a day. So it's a little different.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, we have another great slate of college basketball on tap for Wednesday night and Thursday night and Saturday and Sunday. There basically is not a non-Friday the rest of the college basketball season where you don't have something to look forward to in the world of college basketball. And we at the Field of 68 will be here to break it all down for you the rest of the year. So for John Fanta, who is calling his first NBA game, by the way, shout out. Woo! Fanta, look, man, look. I understand that you're testing the waters right now. You're coming back to school. I want to guarantee you right now, I want to promise right now that you might be testing the waters of the NBA right now, but you're coming back to college.
Yeah, Terrence is able to do it both ways, so I'm very excited and humbled, and I'm not going to be leaving the college basketball space. So I'm
never leave college.
Yeah. Well, T.O. left college after 2 years, and he left college basketball after 2 years as well. So
hey, man, I'm going up to Burlington, baby. I'm going up to Burlington.
When you're
I'm fired up for you, man.
You're seriously committed to this sport.
Hey, hit my guy Tom Brennan up when you're up there, all right? Tell him
I'll say hello to Tom.
Brennan.
I'll tell Tom Brennan you guys said hello. I'll see him. He'll be there.
T.O., Fanta, it's always a pleasure.